A woman in California spent $400 on plastic garden edging last spring. By July, it had cracked, warped, and popped out of the ground in 6 different spots. Her flower beds looked worse than before she started. This happens to almost every homeowner who buys the cheap edging from the big box store, because nobody tells you the truth about what actually holds up outside year after year. Most people think edging is just a decoration. It is not. The wrong edging invites weeds, lets grass creep in, and can even mess with your drainage. Today, that changes. In this video, I am breaking down 10 types of DIY garden edging that can genuinely last for decades, not just one season. We're going deep on cost, tools, installation mistakes, and what actually survives frost heave, lawnmowers, and time. Number 8 is the one almost nobody in the US is using yet, even though it might be the toughest and cheapest option on this entire list. Stick around for that one. Before we move to the next method, I want to say something quick. Every week, I test a new edging method in my own yard, and I post the real results, good or bad. If you subscribe now, you will not miss the follow-up video where I show you exactly how these 10 options held up after a full year outside, including the ones that failed. A lot of people find out too late which edging was a waste of money. Do not be one of them. Hit subscribe and let's get into it. Item 1. Poured concrete edging. Poured concrete is the closest thing to a forever edge you can build yourself. You dig a shallow trench, build a simple wood form, and pour a mix that cures rock hard within a few days. Once it sets, it doesn't shift with your lawnmower, it doesn't fade in the sun, and grass has almost nowhere to sneak through if you seal the joints properly. The real key most tutorials skip is the base. If you pour concrete straight onto soil without a compacted gravel layer underneath, it will crack within 2 winters because of frost heave. A 4-inch gravel base with proper compaction is what separates edging that lasts 30 years from edging that crumbles in 3. Here's the surprising fact most people don't know. You can tint concrete edging with the same oxide pigments used in decorative driveways for just a few dollars extra, which means you get a custom stone look without paying stone prices. But before we move to the next method, there's one edging material that homeowners assume is basically the same as concrete, and it is not even close in how it performs.
Item 2. Steel landscape edging. Steel edging is what professional landscapers use on high-end properties, and there's a reason for it. Unlike a plastic, it does not become brittle in cold weather, and unlike aluminum, it holds a perfectly straight or curved line without bending out of shape when you bump it with a mower wheel. The installation is simpler than people expect. You use a rubber mallet to drive the steel strip along a marked line, letting the built-in stakes anchor it below grade. A quality run of 16-gauge steel edging can realistically last 20 to 30 years outdoors, even in states with harsh winters, because steel handles the expansion and contraction of freezing soil far better than rigid plastic. The surprising fact here is that steel edging actually gets stronger over time in a sense, because it develops a light surface patina that some gardeners intentionally leave for a rustic look instead of painting it. Now, the next option on this list is one that grandparents used for generations, and there's a real reason it never went out of style. Item 3. Natural stone or fieldstone border. Stone edging is about as close to permanent as landscaping gets. There's no material to rot, no metal to rust, and no plastic to become brittle in the sun. You're essentially placing rock that has already survived thousands of years of weather. The trick professionals use is burying about 1/3 of each stone below the soil line so the border feels anchored instead of looking like loose rocks scattered along a bed. Fieldstone is often the cheapest option here because you can source it free from local excavation sites, farms, or online marketplaces where people are trying to get rid of extra stone from their own projects. Most people do not realize that a well-set stone border actually improves your soil drainage right along the edge because the gaps between stones let excess water escape instead of pooling against your lawn. Now, let's pause for a second because I want to ask you something. Quick question for you. What is the biggest edging mistake you've made in your own yard? Maybe it was buying the cheap plastic strips, or maybe you installed something without a proper base like I just described. Think about it for a second because I'm going to ask you to share that in a minute. If you're the kind of gardener who wants a yard that still looks sharp in 10 years and not just this summer, this channel is built for exactly that. Every video here focuses on methods that actually last, which means fewer wasted weekends and fewer wasted dollars. If that sounds like your kind of gardening, go ahead and subscribe right now so you catch every method as we test them. Item 4. Brick edging set in mortar. Loose bricks laid in a trench will shift within a year or two as soil settles and freezes, but bricks set in a proper mortar bed become essentially a mini wall that can outlast the house around it. This is the method used in historic gardens that are still standing over a century later. The process involves digging a trench, pouring a thin concrete footing, then setting bricks on top with mortar between each joint, the same way you would build a low wall. It takes longer than most edging projects on this list, usually a full weekend, but the payoff is a border that never needs to be reset or replaced. Here's something most homeowners never consider. Reclaimed brick from demolished buildings is often stronger and weather-resistant than the cheaper brick sold new today, because older brick was fired at higher temperatures. Salvage yards frequently sell it for less than new brick, which means your most durable option might also be your cheapest. Item 5. Recycled rubber edging. This one surprises people because rubber sounds like it should degrade quickly outdoors, but the type made from recycled tires is engineered specifically to resist UV breakdown for extreme durability. It flexes instead of cracking, which means it survives frost heave and lawnmower impact far better than rigid plastic. Installation is fast since most rubber edging systems use interlocking sections and ground stakes, so a whole flower bed can be edged in under an hour. The flexibility also means it naturally follows curved bed designs without the awkward notches you get trying to bend plastic edging around a curve. The surprising fact is that recycled rubber edging is one of the only options on this list that gets more flexible in cold weather instead of more brittle, which is the exact opposite of what happens to standard plastic edging. But the next method is the one I promised you at the start of this video, and it is the one almost nobody is talking about yet. Item 6. Basalt or granite cobblestone. Before we get to that promised method, let me pause again for our second question. Here's something I want you to think about. Have you ever installed an edging project that looked amazing the first month and then completely fell apart by the next season? That gap between what looks good on installation day and what actually survives real weather is the entire reason I make these videos. If you want a yard that holds up the way these long-lasting methods do, subscribing genuinely helps because I'm testing new materials constantly and comparing them against these classics so you never have to guess which one is worth your weekend. Tap that subscribe button now so the next comparison video lands right in your feed. Granite and basalt cobblestones are what you see lining historic European streets that are still intact after hundreds of years of foot and cart traffic. As garden edging, they are essentially indestructible against frost, sun, and impact. Installing them involves setting each stone into a sand or mortar bed in a tight running pattern which locks them together almost like a puzzle. Because the stones interlock, they resist shifting even in regions with severe freeze-thaw cycles, which is exactly the kind of movement that destroys plastic and even some concrete edging over time. The surprising fact is that reclaimed cobblestone from old street projects is often available through architectural salvage companies for a fraction of the price of new cut stone because municipalities frequently remove and replace old streets and need to offload the material. Item 7. Composite wood edging. Composite edging is made from a blend of recycled wood fiber and plastic, which gives it the natural look of wood without the rot risk that kills real timber borders within 5 to 7 years. It resists insects, moisture, and splitting, which are the three things that destroy traditional wood edging. The boards typically snap into a track system that gets staked into the ground, which makes replacing a damaged section simple instead of tearing out the whole border. This matters because even durable materials occasionally get cracked by a stray mower blade or a dropped tool, and composite lets you fix just that one piece. Most people do not know that composite edging expands and contracts with temperature similarly to real wood, so installers need to leave small gaps at the joints. Skipping that step is the #1 reason composite edging buckles, even though the material itself is genuinely built to last decades. Item 8. Corten weathering steel. This is the method I promised you at the beginning, and it might be the single best value on this entire list. Corten steel is designed to develop a stable rust-colored layer on the surface that actually protects the metal underneath instead of continuing to corrode the way regular steel would. That surface layer means Corten edging essentially stops rusting after the initial weathering phase, which typically takes a few months. After that, it can sit in your yard for 50 years or more with zero maintenance. No painting, no sealing, and no replacing. It is the same material used in modern architecture and high-end landscape design, specifically because it is considered nearly maintenance-free for a human lifetime. The surprising fact is that Corten steel is often priced close to basic steel edging, yet performs closer to stone in terms of lifespan, which is exactly why more landscapers are quietly switching to it, while most homeowners have never even heard the name. Item 9. Interlocking concrete pavers. Paver edging uses small, manufactured concrete blocks that click or lock together along a trench. Unlike poured concrete, this method requires no mixing or curing time, which makes it one of the fastest professional-grade options to install yourself in a single afternoon. The blocks are manufactured under controlled conditions, which actually makes them more consistent in strength than DIY poured concrete that can vary based on your mixing ratio. Most paver edging systems are rated for decades of outdoor use, and many come with manufacturer warranties, specifically because the company trusts the material to hold up. The surprising fact here is that paver edging is one of the only options that can be fully disassembled and reused if you ever redesign your garden beds, which means your investment moves with you instead of getting demolished every time you change a landscaping plan. Item 10. Buried vinyl-coated steel panel. This final method combines the strength of steel with a vinyl coating that protects it from rust, which solves the one weakness that regular steel edging has near sprinklers or in consistently damp soil. The panels are driven vertically into the ground, so most of the material sits below the surface, which is actually the secret to why this type of edging resists heaving and shifting so well. A deeper buried edge acts almost like a small underground wall, holding the boundary firm even through repeated freeze and thaw cycles. The surprising fact is that because the coating protects against rust, this type of edging is one of the few metal options considered safe to use directly around vegetable gardens and edible plant beds without worrying about metal leaching into your soil over time. Alright, before I wrap this up, I want to hear from you. Drop a comment with your city or state and tell me which of these 10 methods you were most likely to try in your own yard. I read every single comment on this channel, so do not be shy. Here's the pattern running through every single one of these 10 methods. The edging that actually lasts is never the one that looks flashiest in the store display. It is the one built with a real base, real anchoring, and materials that are designed to move and weather the way nature actually behaves instead of fighting against it. Concrete, steel, stone, brick, rubber, cobblestone, composite, Corten, pavers, and buried panel all share that same principle, even though they look completely different sitting in your yard. Once you understand that principle, you'll never fall for another flimsy plastic edging kit again, because you'll know exactly what actually separates a border that survives one summer from one that survives a lifetime. One more thing before you go. Tell me in the comments which number on this list surprised you the most. Was it the Corten steel nobody talks about? Or the reclaimed brick that outlasts new brick? I genuinely read all of it, and I love seeing which ones catch people off guard. Next week, I am pulling up every single one of these edging methods after a full year outside to show you exactly what survived and what quietly failed, so you do not have to find out the hard way in your own yard. If you want to see those real results before anyone else, make sure you are subscribed, because that comparison video is going to save some of you a lot of money. Thank you so much for spending this time with me today. Go get your hands dirty, and I will see you in the next one.